Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of Justice for All Now. I'm your host, Hena Zuberi. In the year 837 AD, Romans captured the Muslim cities of Zibitara and Malaita, where they mutilated a number of men and pulled out their eyes and cut off their noses. Fleeing refugees made their way to Samarra, where they spoke of the horror of the attack. A Muslim woman was taken captive and abused. She called out the name of the Khalifa, Wa Mu'tasima. Help, O Mu'tasim. When the news reached Mu'tasim, he said, Labbaik, I'm here on your call. His armies entered Amuriya, and the Muslim prisoners including the woman, were freed. No one is listening to Muslim women today. Our Uyghur sisters have borne the brunt of this genocide by the Chinese Communist Party. They're experiencing enslavement, torture, forced sterilization, separation from their husbands and children. They have been forced to get married to non-Muslims by force. They are under a system of organized rape in the camps and in their homes. They're calling to us. Will we say labbaik? This is the question that I want to ask all my audience, my Muslim audience. And for those of you who are listening in from all over North America, from Canada, USA, Mexico, listen to the stories of Uyghur women who have escaped these concentration camps. This week, I'll be interviewing 3 Uyghur women who have been former concentration camp survivors. They are courageous. They are speaking up. They're reliving their horror and their trauma. My today's guest is Gulbahar Jalilova. She's an ethnic Uyghur who is from Kazakhstan. She's not a Chinese citizen. She's a Kazakh citizen. And she was incarcerated in CCP concentration camps. And yes, these are concentration camps. Listen to her story, learn from her, and you'll see why we're calling them concentration camps, not re-education camps, not internment camps. My interpreter today will be Serwi Huseyin. She's the team lead for the Save Uyghur campaign and an ethnic Uyghur herself from East Turkestan. Assalamu alaikum, Gulbahar. Assalamu alaikum, Serwi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Hena.
Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, Gulbahar. Rahmat kelganingizga.
I know Gulbahar has been interviewed by many media channels. I don't know if she's been interviewed by a Muslim TV channel, by Muslimas who can share her pain. So I'm ever grateful for her to be on the show today and really admire her courage.
Sister Hena, sizga dedi, biz sizga intayin rahmat aytamiz. Bugun o'sha kelib, shunchalik cho'ng jasorat bilan yana bir qitim biz bilan o'tirib, o'zingizning shu Xitoyninki lagerlarda, yig'ilish lagerlarida ko'rgan qo'rqinch kunlaringizni, shu kechirmishlaringizni biz bilan o'rtoqlashmoqchi bo'lganingiz uchun biz shu hammalarga odillik degan shu guruhimizga hammalar sizga rahmat aytamiz.
Gulbahar, you're not a Chinese citizen. Why were you arrested and detained?
Gulbaharada siz bu Xitoyning grajdani emas. Siz Qozog'istonlik bir Uyg'ur. Siz nima uchun sizni Xitoylar shu yig'ilish lageriga tashladi? Aşı ishlar qanday yuz bergan?
Men ticaret qilganimga 20 yil bo'lgan, 96-yildan tortib boshlagan. Şu axırkı etim 2017'de 5. ayındaki 22'si şu otelden Birisini uyda tutsam keyenmeyli, şu otelden ip ketdi, tutuklandi şu namaz kılınma, namaz ötüdüm o da şu, ben Müslüman boğan üçün, Uyghur boğan üçün tuttu. Başka hiç kandak menen günahım yok. Eşetki kırındaşlarımızın, mühendisinin günahı, hiç kimin günahı yok. Bir günah yatıdı.
Yeah, she had been doing business just back and forth with East Turkestan for about 20 years. And in 2017, May 22nd, she went back to East Turkestan one more time to do her business. But they detained her just because she looks like Uyghur and her ethnic identity is Uyghur and she's Muslim. This is what she thinks.
Mashallah. And we hear that she's 55 years old, and he spent a year in the concentration camps, 3 months and 10 days in an underground prison cell crowded with 40 other women. Serwi, I'd like to ask her how she was arrested from her hotel room. Can she tell us what happened next?
Gulbaharada Sister Hena şuna bir sualını sordu. Siz 55 yaşga kiribsiz. Siz Xitoyninki yig'ilish lagerda 1 yil 3 oy 10 kun aşağıda yetibsiz. Unda bo'lgandan keyin mushu to'g'riliq bizga bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz. Bu ishlar qanday sizga ashuna yuz berdi?
Aşağı lagerga düşkenden keyin hemimizde 5 yıl yaşadı. 1 yıl 3 ay 10 gün yürüdüm. Kutumdaki kişiler yaşmadı. Bir gündeki aşağıdaki kızlar bilen deyişettik. Bir günümüz bizge 1 yıl okşaş görünüp gidetti. O Xitoyniki kılan zulümleri, kılan tacavuzları bir gün okşamaydı. Günde her xil şekillerde apırdım. Lagerdan lager, kamerdan kamer ötkeydi. Bir-birisini tonmusun, bir-birisini diye kılan dep sendilerdi, dimmisun de.
Men bir şey için bir tercüme qilib beraymi? Bo'lmasa unutib qolgandekman. So after she was detained and she was thrown into one of those camps, she was forced to sit all day long in the cell, and her feet were shackled. And she said that with inmate sisters, they felt like this 1 day is equal to 1 year. It's so hard for them to stand off a day and then they are moving her and other inmates from cell to cells from one camp to the other.
And so for our audience so you guys understand what was happening in these camps, they have a contraption called a tiger chair, where they sit prisoners down with approximately 50 kilos, about almost 100 pounds of chains over their bodies. And they're made to sit in these tiger chairs, which is the method of torture to extract testimony from them. And so Gulbahar has experienced that from what we're learning about today. Reading her, how long was, so let's describe, if she could give us a description of what the cells looked like, how many people were inside the cells, and what was the daily routine like for her?
Yeah, Sister Hena, and I would like to tell you one thing. So I interrupted her in our first question because so that I don't forget what she said. So yeah, let her continue what she would like to say on the first one, and then let her describe a typical 1 day time in the cell. Gulbarada abay diganlaringizningki keynini yana azroq deb beramsiz. Aniki men Hena so'ragan ikkinchi savolni dey. Sizning gapingizni bo'lib o'tib qoldik. Kechiring.
Ben yeni kirgen vaxtıda ağır kegini şu vaxtda aşağı yeni tutuq ayalla bir gün boğan. Badısa doktorxanada mı ne bilmeydi. Şu aşağı minden düştü de lagerga kırıp taşıldı. Taşılan vaxtda süt aktı. Süt ekmedi bir darı verdi, süt toxta kaldı. Ben dedim ki ben içimde oydum bir günlük balının nem günası var. Demiş ki bu anısını ekip anısı bilen balısını demiş ki arı götürdü de şu vaxtda. Bek qattiq ichim kuyib ketib, shu yurak kasali bo'lib, doktorxonaga ashula o'zlari oladi.
We are, Sister Gulbahar is still continuing to answer your first question, Sister Hena. So she said that one thing that really struck her deep is on the day that she entered to the camp, she saw that one woman, nursing woman actually, and her milk was kind of coming out.
Mhm.
And she was so sad because it's the risk of that baby. And she's so sad that why the women has to be separated with the babies, little babies, and while they're still nursing, and why they have to be there. This is one thing that always just haunting her.
And this is very important to note because when children are being on a mass scale being separated from their families and being sent out to orphanages and state schools with dormitories, a lot of times the people that we are seeing, the ages that we're being told about, they're above 4. But Gulbahar, you're saying, has witnessed nursing mothers inside, so that means their babies were snatched away from them as well.
Yes. Yeah, the one thing that I forgot in my translation is that they gave her drug, unknown drug, and then immediately her milk just was stopped.
Oh, subhanallah.
So
thank you so
Yeah.
much for that.
Arada Sister Hena deydi şu ata-analar ballardan ayrılıp ballarni ilqindaq bir şu Xitoy hukumatiniki o'zi boshquradigan shundaq yaslilarga, boshlang'ich maktablarga solyapti, uyga kelolmaydi ballar ota-onalarni. Bizning anglaganimiz shu. Hozir bugun sizning og'zingizdan amaliyotda bolasini imitayotgan analarning, Uyg'ur analarning shu xil balni imitish huquqidan ayrilib qolganini anglab, intayin ko'nglimiz yerim bo'ldi. Yana davomlashtirsangiz bo'ldi. Agar birinchi savolga agar shu kunlarni ne tasvirlab, shu kampdagi, lagerdagi kunlaringizni tasvirlab olsangiz.
Albatta, u yoqda qizlarni odatlari keladi, qog'oz bermaydi. Shu haftada bir qatam ishga doridan berdi. Bir 10 kunda bir ukol saldı, kan aldı. Nima ukol salsizlar, nimaga dori demaymiz, paydo turinglar deb labada o'zlari kirmaydi, labada ashtaq deydi, paydo turinglar deydi, paydo turmiz, kichikdan to'shba ashaqni qo'limizni chiqarib beramiz, o'zlarimiz suyulib ichimiz. Keyin ham deb tushundik, qizlarni ayirib to'xtab qoldi. Ham qo'rsaq ochgan nima sezmadi. Dahyada o sementiyada yatimiz, aşı etkenlikleri tutsak kır çık getiyorduk, kızıl. Aşı hiçim sezmedik. Aşı darılar, ukollar, hemisi mi aşı üylerini esnedip, ben hem de ballarımla tukalım esnedip, üylerini isimimiz hiçim kemedi. Boş biz özümüz, ben bize mesleğim şu kodu ben de tuğulup üskendekli bu kalan, bişimiz kuruktu. Aşı darılar bilen, ukollar bilen aşı kıvet.
Take your time. I know this is very difficult. Take your time.
Sister Gulbahar says they broadcast on the radio, and just every 6 or 10 days, and they have to come to a place that has a like little window, and they throw out their hand, and then they give them the unknown drugs, and after they eat it, and the women's period, their period was gone, and then they don't know pain. They sit on their sides in a tiny room and on the no mattress, but they don't even feel the pain. And then there's no sanitizing supplies in the camp for women, and we can imagine that how hard it can be. At all, they don't supply sanitizing items to those inmates, not at all.
This is why this is a frequent question that I have been bringing up is Why is this not considered a women's rights issue? Where are our women's rights activists globally protesting for these women who have, been incarcerated? Subhanallah. And as you, she herself has been sick ever since she's come out from reading her past interviews. Can she tell us what sort of she believes she was slow poisoned. Gulbahar, you believe you were slow poisoned. Can you share what you mean by that?
Gulbahar, siz burunqiyliq ziyoratlaringizda deyishingizcha sizni ular meni ular zaharlayapti degan shunday bir gapni qilgansiz. Mushu gapni degan vaqtida siz nimalarni o'ylab ashta degandingiz, bizga bir deb bergan bo'lsangiz bo'pti. Shu ash dorilarni Ashu kampda dorilarni ishlatganga qaratgandingiz-ku deyman. Ular meni zaharladi.
Ha, o dorilarni, sularni ichgan sularimizni sapla dardın yasaganlıqı işsaqma, sunun demi yo'qsa dara. Yegan tamoqlarimiz tamoqning demi.
Shuni bilmaymiz. Sapla. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She says they don't. Yeah. Because of the effect of those unknown drugs, they even don't feel that they are starving. They don't feel that they are in pain. And that even the waters that they are given and doesn't taste like pure water. And they suspect that there's something in it because after they not even we don't even have to mention about the drugs that they are given on just routine basis. The water that they were given on daily basis, it has something in it. I remember Sister Hena on one interview of Sister Kalbinur, the former camp teacher. She said one time while she was trying to drink water from the one bucket somewhere in the camp because she was teaching, and the Hui, we call it Tungan in Uyghur, the person must be really caring for her that no, you cannot drink this. They are for the students in there, but not for you. This is exactly just a similar feeling that she has with the camp teacher, the former camp teacher, Miss Kalbaner, because she says even the water doesn't taste like water. It has something in it because we don't feel the pain. Yes, she said earlier, while she was answering the question earlier, she says, she felt like as if she was born inside the camp.
She was born inside the camp.
Yeah, she feels like.
Subhanallah. So you describe a small room with lots of people in there. Can you did you stay enough time in one place to develop relationships with other women in the camps? Can you share some of their stories as well?
Gulbaharada Hena'nınki bir suali deyishçe, siz shu kampda turgan vaqtingizda shu bir uyning ichida tug'an qizlar bilan bir mundaq munosabatni bir taraqqiy qildig'idek bir-biringizga bo'lgan bir mundaq bir hissiyat paydo bo'lg'idek bir uzoqda tura olamsizlar odatda bir gap qiladigan fursat bo'lamdi o'sha yerda o'zinglarni ko'rgan so'roq qilg'ili achib ketganda ko'rgan ishlarni deyishgidek bir fursatlar bo'lamdi. Shu to'g'riliq bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz bo'pti.
Tamam, bo'ladi. Kechda 7dan keyin boshqalar ketgan vaqtda Xitoycha naqshi 5 gimin naqshini marsh naqshini o'rganib oladi. Shu vaqtda hamda bilmaganlarga qalam berib, yezib, men ruscha yezib, past ovozda aytinglar deydi. Shu vaqtlarda paransalmiz, paransagan vaqtda shu vaqtda hamda qizlar kimlar so'roq qildi, qanday so'roq qildi deb hammani deyishib shu vaqtlarda shu kızlar urup tırnakları jüvetken ukollarını on barmağı ukol sağan kızlarını gördüm. Benim 3 ay oldu diye vakit birinci ketim sorakta 3 ay geçe aşağıda şu aşağı gördüm kızlarını.
Tırnaklarını uzvetken
kızlarını tırnaklarını jüvetken barmakla timakları jul etip keyin oşa timakны içige jığını sagan 10 kız. Oşadan ketip sörep akır koydu. Soradan keyin. Keyin o kızga ben tutmuşsun dedi. Ketsi biz ben tuturdu emasmı? O kızın ben tutmuşsun dedi. O kız 2 gün geçip hoşağı kelmedi. Keyin asken o kızında karsak timaklar juluqlıq. Ya onunla isiyat işim kılamasını işim delememiz. Karsak mı yani yasak. Aştaq nurgun kızlarını ben gördüm. Aş toraktan keyin basqınçılık uçurgan kızlarını gördüm. Aşna kızlarını keşten sorattık. 2 gün, 3 gün geçip hoşağı kelmedi kız. Kelgen vaqtı bir sorattık. Kanaq nim kıldı desek. Aşağı kız basqınçılık kıldı mı diye vaqtda kız jığlap nomustan jığlap ya edelemesi gözde yaşaktı. Jınjırlar bilen su içip jınjırlar bilen urup bu kızlar ısındır hemsi yazıqlıq meninde. Aşındaq soraktan keyin aştaqlatı qavaqtı men hemde ularni anlap bakmagan keyin aşağı vatanga kirsem ondaqlarni anlap bakmaptı men ki jığılgan vaqtda kızlar ajat kichik kızlar tasilli beretdi. Hada jığılma bularga bu Xitaylar göz yaşını gözetmeli hada. Başta yerlerde yürüp ketsek şehir bulup gitmişsin. Yaşam. İşte kızlar düşettik. Keşledi.
So, really, it must be really painful for Sister Gulbahar to go through all of those tragic memories with us today. She said she said like routinely every single day, like around 7 p.m., 5 p.m., they have to sing Chinese songs. And they broadcast that they announced that you guys have to sing it, and they sing it. And while they're singing, and sometimes there are opportunities for them to talk while everybody is singing, to talk with each other. And one time she saw one Uyghur sister, her during one time, her fingers, Sister Gulbahar saw one of the inmates' all fingers, like fingernails, were pulled out, and then with needle, they punched needles to torture her. And usually they pull out girls and then they don't come back 1 or 2 days. One time she asked such inmate gone for 2 days and came back to the cell. She asked what happened, and they suspect that the Chinese government did rape those girls, that specific inmate, and she couldn't tell because out of shame and out of sadness and all those things, she couldn't tell, burst into tears. And those times are most like very, very sad moments for her, still in her memories. Because if she just gives me a lot of information at one time, it's sometimes a little bit harder for me to remember. Yeah.
Okay, if you'd like to ask her if she'd like to add.
Men yatkan Uyghur lagerda şu ölüm cezası begel lagerla, işki lagerda yattım işki.
Ben şöyle bir devalay unutmalı iken Sister Gulbahar says the cell, the camp that she was staying in there is one of the heavy kind of, the most strict kind of camp, the ones that were sentenced to death, such kinds of people, the inmates were there.
Okay.
And devamlaştırın Gulbahar'da.
O Xitaylar ölüm cezası bergen, bana özüm benim pasportumni, Kazak pasportumni ivilip özlerinin 0. numarını yasap açtık bergen bana. Ölüm cezası berip açtık yandı. Konsullikler Xitay, Kazakistan adamı yok dediler. Meni aşı vatanı adamındaki lakıp açtık.
Siz değil mi? Ölüm cezası verip yabancılık kesip ettim o sizden.
Hamısıga ölüm cezası meni 0. nomer berdi. Aşını yatkı bilip aldap, 0. nomer berdi. 0. o kimlik qo'yib, Xitoyning kimligini.
Yeah, they confiscated. They took her passport,
Mhm.
and then they gave her a fake Chinese ID card and said, you're a Chinese citizen. You have to stay here. And then they forced her to stay in the camp, no matter how much she denied the fact that she's Kazakhstan citizen. And they didn't agree. And she said that, again, she emphasized this is a camp that is one of the heaviest kind, just most strict kind of just people usually just stay there very long time or sentenced to death.
I want to ask you a
Uyakta
question.
nurgun yo'qolib ketadi. 14 kichik qizlar 14 yoshdan 80 yoshgacha qizlar, 15 yosh, 16 yosh, 20 yoshli qizlar ketisi ismini atapla ochiq ketdi, qaytib kirmagan nurg'un qizlar. Men yetgan vaqtda shu bosqinchilikqa, tajovuzga men o'zim meni tajovuzga uchradim. Shu ashta qilgan ekan, u o'lim jazosi berganlarga jonni silib o'ltirayotgan odamlar bilan birga yotdim. Ashta odamlarni ko'rdim, ashta qizlar bilan birga.
Yeah, there are the female Uyghurs in the camp that where she was staying from 14 years old to 80 years old.
Mm.
From 14 years old to 80 years old. They pull out little girls, 14, 15 years old. And then you know that what happens to those girls when they're pulled out in the midnight. They just call somebody, come out right now. And then they don't come back overnight. And also, Sister Gulbahar Jalilova said she was raped by Chinese police in there, like other girls, inmates, very little inmate, just very young girls, 14, 15. I can't imagine, Sister Hena. I have girls, and it's hard for me
I can imagine,
to
Serwi.
imagine.
This is, reading about it but hearing it from somebody is a totally different experience. And for all of those who especially in our Muslim viewers in Muslim countries, who have not been given this information, perhaps of what China's deals with their governments is, it is imperative on you to share this testimony. These are our Muslim sisters in faith who are calling out to us. I wanted to ask you, because I didn't, I want to make sure I didn't miss this. Was Sister Gulbahar herself sexually violated as well? Or what sort of, if she's open to sharing it, what was her experience during this time, aside from, so we've talked about being drugged, we've talked about the tiger chair. What can she share what other aspects of the day were like for her?
Yeah. Gulbahar'da Sister Hana'nın deyişçidir. Ben sizden sözlerinizde dedim. Ular da sizge mu aşında tacavuzçılık elip bari. Andi muşu şu kadar
So'rab tatılganda ikkiye bor. Birisi yer ostida, u yoqda kamera bor, 4 ta kamera ko'rinib turdi. Agar imzo atildi deyishim qilsak, nimga imzo atmay deyman. Hammamiz deymiz, degan vaqtda imzo atmish talaga chiqdi, talada kamera yo'q ya, ikkinchi qavatda baqiramsiz, nim qilsangiz, hech kim anglamaydi. Men birinchi qatim kirgan vaqtda talaga chiqqan vaqtda 404 degan nurga kirdim. İkinci qavatda kamera yo'q yerda, yo'g'on bir eg'iz uy. Bulungda bir karavat turdi, yotgan turdi, so'roq qildi. Ashaqda nima desa qiladi. Men baqirsak o'tirmiz.
Sister Hanaga deyishdan burun sizdan bir so'rab olay. Ostingi qavatda so'roq qildi, shundaqmi? Ostingi qavatda so'roq qildi. Cho'ng binoma u.
So'roq qildi, kamera bor. Bek cho'ng bino. Bek cho'ng kamera bek chiq.
U bek cho'ng bino. Ostingi qavatda so'roq qildi. Ikkinchi qavatda nima degandingiz?
Yo'q, ikkinchi qavatda emas, talog'a chiqdi. Talog'a vaqtda bir qarxalta kiydirib ochiqdi. Talog'a chiqqan vaqtda bir muncha ma'miz. Menib ikkinchi qavatga chiqirdi. Chiqqan vaqtda aşağıda ayrim bir bino turdi. Ayrimlar. Bu yoqda kamera yo'q. Kamera yo'q, yana uzun koridor ketgan. Aşağıda so'roq qiladi, ovozlarni anglayman. Men necha qatim ovoz oldim. Bir kameraga aytiladi, aşağıda kamera yo'q dedi. Bir aşağıda karavat turdi, yotqanlar turdi. Hamma nima qiladi.
If they are interrogated, the interrogated facility is they live in a big building, the several buildings. The underneath the basement is a kind of interrogation, and there's camera, she says. And then when they are called to go outside, and they make them wear the black sack on their heads, and then they take them out to another building, and I hope I grasped the gist of what she said. And then when she went into that building, there are rooms, and they said that they interrogate them in those in another building, but actually there are beds, the mattress, and then they call them out for interrogation. But Sister Gulbahar says they do whatever they want to.
And the cameras are watching 24/7. I heard recently the Chinese government has come out against these camp survivors. They're accusing them of being puppets, of being, they've even accused them of having affairs, being promiscuous, just to disqualify what they're saying. Has she heard about these statements, and what does she have to say in response?
Gulbahar ada mışı yakına yağız Allah'ımız sizler qancha müşündaq aşı kampdan qutulup chiqqandan keyin şuna sözləyətqan bolsaڭlarmı bu Xitoy hökumətinin qılayotqanlarını Uyğurlarga bu qırğınçılıqni. Lekin bular davamlı yo'q, bu Gulbahar Jelilova yolg'a aytyotidu. Qalbi Nur Sidiq yolg'a aytyotidu. Tursunay Ziyodulla yolg'a aytyotidu degandek ashta gaplar borda. Shu siz mushundaq shu Xitoy hökumətinin mushunda inkor, sizlarningki gap so'zlaringlarni inkor qilishiga bir qanday qaraysiz?
Albatta o'zini oqlash uchun Xitoy yag'a deydi. Men ya o lagerlarda bo'lmasa, o lagerning ismini qayerdan bilaman. Yoqda 67 qizniki shu lagerda beguna yotgan qizlarning ismlarini yez qo'ydim, ularni qayerdan degan doktorxona o'lim jazosi bergan, o jilni sepib o'ltirayotgan aytdim. U Jansoyan degan doktorxonadan qayerdan bilaman.
She said that if what she says is not true, how she comes to know the names all of those detention facilities, and how she knows the names of the girls who were tortured in there. Earlier, she also said, and she wrote down those girls' names and just some of the informations after she went out from the camp. So she says, if whatever I say is a lie, how do I know the name of your detention centers? How do I know all of those names? And even she was taken to the hospital one time. And how do I know that the name of those hospitals that you brought me in there while I became sick, while I was interrogated?
Yeah, this is absolutely, and the incredible audacity of the Chinese government to attack these women's personal characters, calling them inferior women, just to decrease and try to get the spotlight away from their own actions and onto these women. When we want to I really, like, it's really difficult because you don't want to push too hard and respect her privacy as well, whatever she wants to share. So this is something that I'd like to give her in the next few minutes to really share what she wants to share with the world. It's taken a lot of courage for her to be able, she could have easily gone into silence and not share her story. One, what has made her want to share her story, and another is why, what if she has, this is her platform, no censorship, what would she like to share with the world?
Hana'nın sizden soraydigan bu sualı bolsa intayin aniqi. Hana biladigan biz hammamiz bilamiz sizga intayin tas keladi aşağıda ko'rganlarni bizga chiqib sirtqi dunyoga oshkorlash. Shu siz bizga qandaq bir kechirmishlaringizni shu kamti ko'rgan, qandaq bir narsani o'zingizga qattiq ta'sir qilgan, hozir deyishni xohlasangiz, hozir sizga shu vaqtni biz berishni xohlaymiz. Qandaq bir har qandaq bir kechirmishni yoki dunyoga siz nimalarni deyishni xohlaysiz, shu ko'rganlaringizni bizga so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz. Sizga cho'qim tasdildi Gulbarada.
Men 1 minut tuanib qolay, nima hukm asab.
Ma'qul. Sister Hena, she would like to leave for a minute.
Let's give her a minute, the producers, and this is something that just as we're putting these testimonies together to present to other lawmakers and leadership around the world, it's so imperative that their voices are heard, that they're unfiltered. And so thank you so much, Serwi. I know it's hard for you to imagine, just it's hard enough reading about it, but to hear it from someone who's actually been in there. As you listen to her, what are some of the thoughts that are coming in your mind?
A lot, actually. It's hard for me to even concentrate on your questions and on the narrative that she's telling me, because she says one sentence and it strikes me really hard and gives me the tremble and the shakiness, and then it's so hard for me to concentrate on rest of her words, because one word, deep sadness and agony for my people in East Turkestan. I am so sad. At this moment, I know that my nephew was locked up in one of the prison camps. Actually, he was sentenced with some year of imprisonment, and there's no way for me to identify how long. And he's living in there because of me. And I would like to say sometimes just, if I didn't transfer money from US to his account, and it wouldn't happen to him. And sometimes this kind of thought tortures me. And sometimes then I tell myself, it is Chinese government who is locking up your nephew. It's not the ordinary money transfer thing. And at this moment, and I can imagine that his feet were shackled, his hands were chained, because this is something that Miss Gulbahar, the sister Gulbahar, shared, that her hands were chained and there was like her feet were shackled. Just all the time, that image really tortures me. And the way they sit on their sides in that small tiny cell that released from the Chinese medias, that tiny cells, and in that cell there's even the restroom is in there, that you can see actually the restroom. There's no barrier. No barrier, and you can see whatever the other people are doing. And then I just imagine that my nephew was experiencing the same issue, but he's man, he's male, but his experience must be different than these inmates that she described. But still, I can't help relating her experience to my nephew. And that my husband, his son, my brother-in-law, was also sentenced with 17 years. Imagine, just We're going to Turkey. So I imagine what kind of work they are forced to do in those cells, what kind of torture they are and humiliation that they went through. Only they knew. We can only imagine here, just listening to her painful experiences and relate the experiences of our brothers and sisters in there to her experience, and relate all those her experience to all the people who has the same ethnicity, who has the same facial features and the same blood and the same Islamic faith with me, just relating to it, her experience to entire people in there. This is what.
She's back. Let's have her speak, inshallah.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Gulbarada yaxshi qaytib keldingiz. Nimalarni o'ylaganimni paranglashib hozir sister Hena mendan so'radi. Sen nimalarni o'ylading Gulbahar hamshirimiz shu gapni qilayotgan vaqtida deb shuna degan. Ben üzərimdəki tuqqanlarımnı o'yladim deb javob berdim. Endi Gulbaharada siz abay sizdan bir savol so'rgandik. Siz shu qandaq bir kechirmishlaringizni, nimalarni o'ylaganingizni yoki nimalarni ko'rganingizni, qandaq bir o'zingiz shu dunyo, sirtdagi dunyo bilan shu o'rtoqlashib deb berishni xohlaydigan shu kechirmishlaringizni hozir deb bersangiz bo'ldi bizga.
Tamam, aşağılar bir yapılan kızlar, küçük kızlar, ayollar hemisi detti. Gulbaharada eğer siz meşeden ölmeyi sağ çıksanız, siz bizni unutup kalmang deb, siz amanet bekündü detti, keşlerde detti, unutup kalmang, sizge amanet meşedki zulümlerini anlatın. Biz deydi, uyga chiqsak mı biz alaymiz, bizning bir yerda mumkin emas, yanmış lagerga solaydi. Siz erkin davlat tug'andan keyin siz anlatamiz bilsin ular deb bek omonat qilib ketgan. Ashu uyga kelibma, Qozog'istonga kelibma, axlanding deb qo'yib bergan keyin 20 kun uyda bo'lib. Ko'zimga bag'rim yoshim, tuqqanlarim ko'rinmadi. Şu kızlarını bek siyahımdım, kızların avazlarını diyen amanetleri kulağımda ketmedi. Şu mümkün jürüm gündeki Türkiye'ye geldim. Türkiye'de şu jürüm gündeki Meni ölümden korkmayı, eşeğde korkmayı, eşeğdeki kızlar bana ölümden korkmayı dep şundan kuşkuya hazırlık çeşmedim. Hazırlık okulunda kendine açtı. Köz aldımlar kızlar.
She says,
well, demek ki bana sahip çıkın. Birinchi Xitoyning meni boykot qilsin, Xitoyning meni hargiz olmasin. Xitoyning meni olgan har inson biz uchun o'sha Uyg'urning qiyni bor.
She says,
Bularda jiqroq desin, o'sha Xitoy.
Mishlarni bir davolayman, unutib qolmay bo'lmasa. She was living with young girls, as she described earlier, very, very young girls. They always told her that you're Kazakhstan citizen and one day you will be released. We know that, but we will be staying here, or even we go out, we are not in the free world, and they're going to take us back to these prison cells. But you will be able to go back to Kazakhstan, and when you go back to Kazakhstan or to the free world, please tell us our pains, please tell us what are our experiences here, and this is our amanah to you, and you have to tell this. So after she was released, and she stayed in Kazakhstan for about 20 days, but she couldn't sleep. The voices of those girls were echoing in her ears, and she felt the obligation to speak out, and she went to Turkey, even though it was not very safe to live in Turkey and just share all those experiences in the camp with the world, is putting her in danger, but she still just made the world know what kind of camps they are and what those young girls are going through in those camps. So she would like to tell the world that please boycott any kind of item that was produced by China, because there's the blood of Uyghur people in there.
That's a very, very powerful message. Very powerful, subhanAllah. And for you to act on that, Amana. As we look at this crisis, and I really want to ask you, how did you maintain your faith, and how are these people, men and women, who are being held, when they're not allowed to say God's name, when they are tortured and punished for saying Allah? How can you share with us how people are managing to maintain their faith internally, how you managed to survive this?
Gulbaharada Henaning sizga qo'ygan savoli bo'lsa, amdi mushu Aşu vatanimizda endi bu Xitoylar Alloh degan ismni digil qo'ymayotdi, endi dinimizni butunlay cheklavyapti. Alloh deb solsa cho'qim jazolanadigan holatda shu lagerlarning ichidimi ham tinchidimi. Siz shular bir azoblanib, bular sizni qiynab turmida, xo'rlab qilgan vaqtlarda siz yana shu o'zingizning e'tiqodini qanday qilib saqlab qoldingiz, qanday qilib davomlashtirdingiz. Endi qizlar shu chog'da nimalarni o'yladi, o'zining e'tiqodiga bog'lab turib, ashlar o'zining e'tiqodini yana qanday saqlab qoldi shu xo'rliqlarning ichida. Shu to'g'riliq bir so'zlab bergan bo'lsangiz deydi.
Yen kirgan vaqtda men bir qizniki kirib bir minutdan tishimizni yuvishga berdi. Tishimizni yuvgan vaqtda ular kirgan qizlarning rizinkasini yeb oldim. Rizinka, chashqadan hammasini. Shu checha oldiga tushib ketdi, mashtaqli qilib checha yig'aydib, manda qilib salding deb qizni qarang'i so'laverdi.
Nima qilding
Bu
deb?
yoqda yana debdiki, bizda labada deb turadi, sizlarni deydim. Ha?
Chichini mundaq keyniga qayriz.
Labada o'zlari saqchilar kirmaydi, ashaqda mikrofon bor.
Davomlashtiravering. Yeah. Let me translate this part. She might continue later. And they say every time they are given certain minutes to tishini cho'tkalash dedingizmi? Yuzini yuvish, tishini cho'tkalash dedingiz, ha? Men aniq anglayolmayman.
O'zimiz aytgan 1 minut berdi. O'zimiz ham yuvishda. Shu vaqtda
Yuzini
checha tushib ketdi, manda qilib qiplanqi chechini yig'mada bunaqa edi, sen chechingni.
Yeah, they were not, they collected their hair bands and all kinds of stuff in the cells. So every day they are given just very little time, just 1 or 2 minutes for personal cleaning. And while she saw that one young girl, while she's washing her face, her hair was down, come forwards, and she would like to push it back. And then they might be watching at that time, and that they pulled her out for interrogation.
For just having her hair
just pushing the hair back forward. Gulbaharada ovozingiz aniq kelmayotdi, men anglayolmadim.
And can you ask her if the prisoner...
Endi keldimi?
Ha, endi keldi. Davomlashtiring Gulbaharada.
Aşağıda saqchilar vaqirab debdi, tishni oldiga kelib Sakçılar ki detti. Anlatamsız?
Ha.
Alo.
Anlamadım mı?
Sakçılar detti sizlerle deydi. Meninglarını sizlerle deydi. Meninglarını biz göremiz kamerada. Şunun için dikkat kılınlar. Cık sözlemeler, Uygur sözlemeler detti. Biz görmeyimiz sizlerle kamerada. Beijing'deki başkalarını gördü. Dep eşler detti. Diye vaka aşı kızlar eğer bir yerine uzağa karıp kalsa aşı kamerden görüp kamera жүгіріп келіп сақшылар дәтті сен бір егіп жық қардың сен намаз қылдың деп ашық қыздың ені қарап жазалайды бір егіп сақлашта қылады егер мұны еліміздегі отаған қыздар мына қарап қалсақ сен дәйді салам бердің деп ені ашық қызын жазалайды көріп ұяқ қарашқы болмайды жық ұзақ қарсаңыз болмайды еге қарсаңыз болмайды Hem kameradan görüp oturdu.
They say that even we can detect a kind of dot on your face. We're not only watching you through this camera. The officials in Beijing, the capital city of China, the higher officials are watching you too. So you cannot talk to each other, and of course you're not allowed to each other. And they said that you cannot talk to each other. And even what she detects is you can't even stare at one direction very long. If they do that, they said you are praying. You are praying. If they just would like to move their body to the side and looking at like that, you are giving salam. You are giving while you are doing salat. And even this movement inside the cells just puts them in the risk of, you are praying inside. So
Subhanallah. So even the actions of just even if you're not doing anything, and this we heard. I'd like to let her speak because I think it's important.
Tamamlaştırın Gulbahar'da.
Ular bizni nomusimizni tushirib, yana o kunda bir kirib ahaqlar bilan ayol soqchilarga elektron qaltaklab bizni qip yalang'och qilib, beshimizni tutqib, 3 qaytam o'tag'izib turg'izdi. Ashada kichik bir qiz, yengirgan qiz, 18 yosh qiz cho'nglarni ko'rib, zat atib, mashtaqni patat elektron shok bilan bir urib, yashqizib, kiyimni qip yalang'och qilib, o'tag'izdi 3 qaytam. Bilmayman nima uchun nomus tushirishgan.
She says just because they want to degrade the Uyghur women. Gulbahar'da ular qaralik qilamdi. Qancha kunlarda oyda bir etdimmi bu xil tekshirishni?
Ya 10 kunda her kunda bir qiladi. Her 10 kunda bir.
Ha,
hep yalang'och qilib soqchilar asaqlami bor. Qurollar bilan turadi, ishlar.
She says every 10 days, just for degrading them, they call them in, and then both men and the women, both policemen and police, like whatever, I don't know, just those people, or those guards, yes, those cell guards, with weapon. They are armed. And the men are present, and the men guards and the women guards are present. They call them in, and then make them take off all their clothes, and then they make them put their hands on their heads like this, make them sit down and stand up for 3 times. They have to repeat this action 3 times while being naked. And then one time, one little girl, she was really ashamed, and she's embarrassed. She's like, maybe she didn't perform the action well because she's so embarrassed. And then they beat her with electric baton. So this is what she saw. She says, why they do it? It's like, I cannot comprehend they put them, they locked them in, and why they still want to do it in every 10 days, make them sit down and stand up. If they do it one time before admitting them into the cell, yeah, this is their routine for checkup, something. Okay. It's not okay, of course, but this is like, but no, like I asked her before I answering, just I stopped my answer and went back to her. I asked her just every 10 days, every 10 days. And she felt like they just would like to degrade us and humiliate us. So, you know, that I can imagine that you become so worthless.
And there is this Muslim concept for those listeners who might not understand of Izzah. Izzah is the honor of a Muslim woman. And it is not how a lot of times Orientalist or Western media talks about honor killings. The honor of a Muslim woman is on her. It doesn't belong to her men. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It is her honor. And to be, and when we cover our bodies, this is our direct relationship with God. We are covering, we're wearing hijab for Allah, for God. And so when we are stripped of that, and stripped of our clothes, this government truly understands Muslims. It understands what gets to us, what would humiliate us. And they're doing this to humiliate Muslim women, to humiliate Uyghur women. And this is, a lot of times it isn't about just, I'm sure there are secular Uyghur women who are going through this as well. And they're maybe Christian or other Uyghur women, maybe a smaller number who are going through this as well. But this is something that is a unique oppression of Muslim Uyghur women of Muslim descent. This is very important for people who are watching this to understand this. Please go ahead, Serwi.
Yeah, they just would like to destroy their Izzah. Yeah, sister Hena anamı diginde muşunda qilish arqali men shuna dedim dastlab akirga vaqtida bir qitim tekshirsa ha desak, u har 10 kunda ashtaq qilishga maqsadi siz shuna yaxshi ifodalab berdingiz. Bular bizni shu bir xil sharafsiz his qildirish uchun, xo'rlash uchun ashunda qiladi har 10 kunda deb. Ham davomlashtirib deydigan so'zlaringizni davomlashtiravering. Bir men mana tarjima qilib, siz so'zlab tarjima qilish jarayonida bir xil uzilish bo'ladi ekan. Lekin yana yaxshi so'zlab berdingiz. Rahmat.
Aşı lager kamerning har bir kamerda boshqa lagerga kirgan o'xshash aşı o'tasak o bular aynan ko'rinib turibdi. O'tirib turganlar hammamiz o burunga qarab o'tiramiz. Turganlar nomusimizni. Bir qatim aşı bir minut so'qsuda mana chaqnalar deydi so'qsuda aşı qip yalang'och bo'lsak aşı ko'p aşı qarab turamiz o burunga.
They say that the bathroom they have no privacy and they can see everything through the window, and while even the taking shower and they are seeing them, so there's no any privacy exist in their lives in the camps.
How can she talk about her how she was able to get out? I know that's a question that a lot of people are asking. How did she manage to escape? And is there any chance of getting any others out? I know aside from family activism, has she noticed anything that works?
Yeah, could you please just make it short a little bit?
First, let's ask her, how did she escape?
Okay. Gulbaharda siz shu kampdan qanday qilib qutulib chiqdingiz? Shunchalik qo'rqinchli bu kamp, bu lager. Siz ham qanday qilib qutulib chiqdingiz? Bir chiqamanmi debmi o'ylagan bo'lganmidingiz shu chaqda? Shu taskunlarni beshingizda o'tkazayotganda.
Yo'q, aşağıdaki qizlar deyishyapti, bu yerda bir chivin uchib kiramaydigan yer, deb u yoqdan hech kim saq chiqmaydi. Nimishga desangiz u yoqda qiz bo'lib ketgan, ashaqda o'shadan ketib o'lib qolgan, urib o'ltagan qizlarni ashaq biz ko'rdik, hammamiz ko'rdik. Shuning uchun biz deyishyapti, bu yerda biz shuncha narsani eshitib ko'ryapmiz. Bu Xitoy hargiz bizni bu yerdan tirik qo'yib qo'ymaydi deb. Vaqtim o'zimiz, bizning vaqtimiz borki, o'lik kutib o'tirdik. Xalq kelib ochib ketsa biz o'ldik deb hisoblatib chiqib ketmagan xalq degan keyin qaytib bu kameraga kirmaymiz deb o'limga tayyor bo'lib o'tirgan. Biroq mening bolalarim, tuqqanlarim endi men ishonib terrorist meni tutgan terrorist deb uydagilar xato aytibdi, terrorist deb biz biz o hech qanaqa terroristga qatnashish yo'q, bilmaydi terrorist ekanligini deb shu xat yozishga boshladi. Butkul ministrlarga, cho'ng boshliqlarga, Rossiyaga ishga xat Birlashmiş Davlatlarga yozgandan keyin meni qo'ygan vaqtda o'rqilab ketgan, bizni chechimiz huquqimiz yo'q deb hammamizniki taqirbosh bo'lib tushirayotgan vaqtda yana biz qizlar bir-birimizga qarab yana dattoq biz yana chiroyli ekanmiz. Rossiyaga ishga tushamiz deb shundoq chechimiz tushirib mashtaq bo'lsaqmi shundoq chiroyli deb tasirli bir kunlarimiz o'tdi. Aşıq uyga qo'ygan vaqtim bir haftadek meni baxtı, doktorxonada 3 kun baxtı, vitaminlar berib, aslim kelgizib, o'rqilab ketgan badanlarim yoritdi. 3 kun yotoqqa qopirib, 3 kun yotoqda polislar yanimda bo'ldi, ashlar baxtı. Keyin oxirgi kuni bugun sen aeroplanga biz bilet oldik ketdik degan vaqtda chechimda qisqa chechimni qarg'i bo'ydi, makiyaj qildi, bo'lmasa o'zim o'sha o'lik chiroyli. Shu makiyajni qilib nurg'un so'zladi Xitoylar, hozirgacha xati bor qo'limda. Go'boniki sen uyga bergan vaqt tijoratdan qilayver, biz seni qarshi olamiz, sen shunday yaxshi emassan berding bizga. Sen qachon bizni mashakkasan telefon qilsang bizni Go'boning telefoni ishlaydi 24 soat deb telefonni yezib berdik. Hozirgacha bor. Shunlar asla deb oxirgi so'zida bir dimda bir 20 dak soqchilar 10 necha soqchilar axaqlar cho'qlar agar dedi sen mushu ko'rgan kunlarimizga deysan qayerda bo'lsang biz seni o'ldiramiz. Sen uzan ko'rding ko'zing bilan qayerlardan biz Uyg'urlarni akeldik. Shuning uchun seni kelib o'ldiramiz. Agar bo'lsang qayerda bo'lsang o'ldiramiz. O'lgin kelmasa sen tijoratingni qilib ketib yuraver, biz seni qarshi olamiz, yordam qilamiz dedi. Tamam, qo'ydim. Uy ketgandan keyin albatta 20 kundan keyin men chidamadim, men dedim, yo'q demsam bo'lmaydi deb.
Ma'qul, men hozir bir tarjima qilib beray. Rahmat Gulbahar aka. While she was living in the cell, just numerous times she saw that girls were beaten to death, and somebody was fainted in front of her. Just this thing just repeatedly happened to her. Every time one of the inmates were called out, every time they put black sacks on their heads and then they called them out in that way. So the girls and she, they talk to each other like we should be prepared for death all the time. So they thought that they're gonna die in there, and they said to each other that even a fly cannot escape from this camp to the outside, so we cannot go out. This is what she talked with the other girls, and this is what she thought. But later on, with the help of her family members in there, writing to the government in Kazakhstan, and then connecting with the Chinese officials in there, and writing to UN, all those advocacy, all those worked, and then they they released her. And before they released her, her head was short. And she also said that while they were inside the cells, and that their hairs were gone, and all of their heads were shaved, hairless. They became hairless, and still they look at each other and comfort each other. See, we still look beautiful. We have no hairs, and we still look beautiful. And so she before she even go out, she became really sick. She became really sick. They took him to the hospital, and then they did some treatments for about 3 days. They had to do it because her condition was bad. And then they even dyed her hair, like in order to make her look good when she meets with her relatives in Kazakhstan. And more than 10 of the Chinese policemen, and they were present at the time, and they said to her sister Gulbahar that you see, you're a businesswoman. Now you stayed here for a while. You did pretty well with us. You cooperated with our work. So now you're free to go and do your business. Anytime you would like to come back here, you can come back and do business with us. As if like nothing happened to Sister Gulbahar in there. And they say that we are present everywhere. We can do anything to you. We can even kill you. So they kind of implying that you had better keep your mouth shut.
And this is something that we think about right now. She's currently in France, and she's still not safe, but she's still brave enough to come out and give this message to the world. Why would anybody, and this is what I want to say to the genocide deniers, why would anybody risk their freedom, risk their business, risk their family's life, and come on and testify to these atrocities if they were not speaking the truth? And this is absolutely terrifying to think that this is happening, and more energy needs to be spent on addressing genocide denial rather than to be working for the cause to get these people free. Subhanallah, and there's so much more that we can discuss. The fact that she saw people die in front of her, this is testimony that needs to be collected and shared with governments across the world, because this is not, why are people, if these are re-education camps, why are people dying in them? Subhanallah. Serwi, as you spoke to her, I'd like her to continue because yeah.
Ya Gülbahar'a da eğer davamlaştırıcı halsınız, yani davamlıq sözler bilseniz boldu. Sözünüz davamlaştırsanız boldu.
Xitayla yağanda dese dedim. Bunu Gulbahar Jelilova Xitaycha yazıqlı. Xitay muşu xatni uyga ballarımga aytibdi. Terroristlarga yordam qildi degan.
Ha. Yeah, she says
özleri yağan davatqını
yeah, Chinese government and told her relatives in Kazakhstan that she's terrorist. That's why she has to stay in the camp, and it's all written in Chinese. She says, I have all these documents that Chinese government gave to my relatives. It's written in Chinese. Yes, I saw it. You know that her first and the last name was changed. I told you before. That's how Chinese government does it, because their family names comes first. Our family names comes after our first name. So her name was switched, like Jalilova first, and then Gulbahar. That's Chinese. Like I saw it in print in those papers. It's really smart of her to take out all those documents given by Chinese governments in the outer world. And she has all these solid proofs of how Chinese government persecute Uyghurs and what they have to go through in those camps. They're not the so-called re-education centers. I call them like torture camps.
Exactly.
Very calm.
Sister Gulbahar, the guards that were inside your camps, I think she's trying to share something else as well.
Yeah.
Министрларга маштак язды, ним консулга. Консулдикилер мана Қазақстанда Қытай консулы бар, ашна мана террористлар катнашкан, шунунга биз текширип атабыз деп язган хатлары карап, мана саплар нимлери бар.
I even can see the Chinese the logos in there.
So these are the papers that were given to her family members on why she was being detained.
Yeah, the earlier one in Chinese that she showed, that it was given to this is also, yes, this is also, some of them are written by her own relatives and her children to the Chinese consulate in Kazakhstan, and the others that she showed these logos, just like you said, it was given by Chinese consulate that we are detaining her because she's terrorist and she has problems in here. This is what they have replied in the paper to their relatives. This is what the Chinese government did, actually.
Wow. So I had a question for her, if she doesn't mind asking. Sister Gulbahar, I wanted to know, the guards in the camp, were they all Han Chinese, or did you have Uyghur guards as well?
Gulbarada, Sister Hena sizden bir sual soraydı. Siz nemede yatqa vaqtınız, lagerda yatqa vaqtınızda hamma qaravulli Uyg'ur mu yoki hamma qaravulli Xitoy mu yoki ba'zilar Uyg'urlardanmi bormi? Qaravullarning ko'pinchisi Xitoymi yo Uyg'ur qaravul? Lagerda yatqa vaqtınızda sizlarni muhofizat qilayotgan qaravullar borku, soqchilar borku. Ashlarning hammasi Xitoymi yo Uyg'urlarmi bormi deya ashlarning ichida bir yerim tirim.
Soqchilar.
Soqchilar.
And the reason, Serwi, I'm asking this is very important for people to realize that sometimes, let's see what her answer is, and then.
Gulbarada anlamadık. Anlayamadık Gulbarada. Avaz yok.
Sap Xitaylar, başqalar hamısı Xitaylar. Hılqa bizni tillaydiganlar sap Uyg'urlar. Uyg'urlar Xitaylarmi? Asası Xitaylar.
The majority of them are Han Chinese, and there are some Uyghurs too. Abay bir gap ne dedin? Sizni tillaydiganlar kimlar? Gulbarada. Ko'pinchisi bularniki, shu soqchilarniki hammasi Xitoy, and Uyg'urlarmi bor, ha? Uyg'urlarmi qiynamdi ashada Uyg'urlarni?
Bor Uyg'urlarmi?
Uyg'ur soqchilarmi qatnashdi shu hamma ishlarga, shundaqmi?
I think we might be having some audio.
She said that she's not hearing us. I think the connection isn't very good. But she says there are Uyghurs, Uyghur police too, and then they attend everything in there. It's another type of giving them more pain in there.
True. There too, and then there's also the classification to divide the people to the good Uyghurs and the bad Uyghurs. And if she can hear us, I'd like to ask her, what sort of questions was she asked when they were interrogating her?
Gulbaharda ashla sizni so'roqqa tartgan vaqtida qanday savollarni so'raydi lagerning ichida?
Qarxıydı, kolumuzga koyza saldı, açıqqa vaqtda şu imza atıldı, bir qog'ozni tashlaydi. At deydi. İmza at. Men dedim, men işim qilmadim. Ya bo'lmasa men albatta men dedim ya advokat be, ya tarjimon qilib be, keyin men qo'l qo'ymayman. Men hozir nimga qo'l qo'ymayman, ishim qilsam desa, qo'l qo'ysal deydi. Sen bizga savol berma, biz sen nim desak, ashna qilsa deb qaltak bor. Qaltaklar bilan urdi. Oxirgi qatim shu qo'l qo'ymab edim, ular talog'a chiqdi. Talog'a vaqtda shu vaqtda askirlik qildi.
She
Alo.
anladım. Ben hazır bir tercüme qilib beray, ya. Every time when she was called out and they put handcuffs on her hands, and then also when they interrogate, every time they force her to sign on a piece of paper, and she refused to sign on that paper throughout her period in the camp, and she told them that without a lawyer, without understanding what is written in the paper, I can't. There's no way for me to sign on the paper. But they forced her so many times to do so. And when she refused to do it, they beat her with electric baton. And then this last time when she refused to sign on that paper, she was abused.
May Allah bless her. You know, for a Muslimah to go through this and to come out, and mashallah, we see her sitting over here and advocating for the ones that she left behind. Subhanallah, if she could share any lessons that she has learned on surviving and strength and faith, I'd really appreciate that.
Sister Hena dedi, endi bir musulmon bir qarinishimiz bo'lash sifatingiz bilan shunchalik bir jasorat bilan ashadin chiqib yana shu ishlarni dunyoga oldiryapsiz. Alloh sizga nurg'un yaxshiliklarni ato qilsin dedi. And then repeat your question, Sister Hena. I'm sorry.
If you could share any lessons.
Yes. So Gulbahar hada Sister Hena'nın so'rig'ini siz shu lagerdagi kechirmishlaringizdan qandaq bir narsani o'rgandingiz? Qandaq bir saboqlarni oldingiz? Shu bir musulmon ayol bo'lish sifatingiz bilan shunchalik bir azobli kechirmishlarni beshingizdan ko'chirib, hamda siz ashadin qandaq bir darslarni o'rgandingiz? Siz bizga nimalarni shu to'g'riliq bizga nimalarni deyishni, masalan, qandaq qilib kuchlik turib yanalam umidni yo'qotmay degandek ashuna hozir chiqib so'zlarni so'zlayapsiz. Shu o'zingiz shu qanday his qildingiz? Shuni bir deb bergan bo'lsangiz.
Ha, eşetke kızlardan, küçük kızlardan dişettaş kızlar, biz de meşeden küçük gayretlik bolaylı. Biz sırtkiler belki bizim atalarımız kırıp ketmese lagerga, ballarım bizni mi çık, bizni bizge kayetkenligimiz izlep bağımı yok mu da şula azap çekvatıdı. Bizden çık avatıdı. Şunun için biz meşed gayret duraylık, gayretlik bolaylık dep küçükten birisi jığlap aşağı soraktan keyin jığlap kirse bir-biri ro'yisini tushamayli deb shu yerdan men shu g'ayratlikni, savrlikni ashaqdan o'rganib chiqdim. Shu qizlar hozircha chiqib shu qizlarni evatmaga degan gaplarga shu har qatim so'zlashatdiq degan gaplar qo'limdan ketmaydi. Haqiqat bor deb o'ylayman. Bu Xitayning qandaq yağanç ekanligi hammasi bilsin. Ularga begunoh yotgan qarindoshlarimiz sayib chiqsin, shularga
The lesson that biggest lesson that she got from the camp, she learned from those young girls. They cry sometimes and then tell each other that we have to be strong in here and we have to survive because our family members outside, they are searching for us, they are waiting for us. They still wipe out each other's tears, and she says that those little girls are strong, the young girls are strong, and stay strong for the sake of your own family members at the outside.
Any message for the Uyghur community that she may have, and for the Muslim community that she would like to share?
Şu muhaciretki Uygurlarga, Uygur qeyrindaşlarımızga deydigan sözleriniz, aniki musulman qeyrindaşlarga, mesela bütün dünyadaki biz özümüz bilen okşaş bir itiqaddaki qeyrindaşlarga deydigan sözleriniz bolsa hazır deyseniz boldu.
Dünya qarindoshlarımga deydigan shu dastur aylik sayib chiqaylik. Uyg'ur qarindoshlarimiz ovozini chiqaramaydi. U yoqda Xitoylar chiqarmaydi. Shunday qilaylik, amaylik. Duo qilaylik. Xat yozaylik. Bada yozgan medialarda Xitoyni rasvo qilaylik.
She would like to tell Uyghur brothers and sisters in diaspora that stand up against the Chinese government together and boycott Chinese products, of course, and make our voices heard and write letters to the government officials in different countries around the world. Make the world realize the dark side of the Chinese government. And the Müslüman qeyrindaşlarga söz deydigan sözleriniz bolsa Gulbahar hada. And the nurgun şu biz bilen okşaş İslam dinini itiqad qildigan nurgun qeyrindaşlarımız bizga köңүл bölüp atıdı. Lekin bularning dövlətləri bizning meydanımızda turmayıp atıdı da Xitaylar bilen nurgun soğudlarını ip berip atıdı, diplomatik münasibetlarda yaxşı qılmayıp atıdı. Şularga mesela şu Müslüman qeyrindaşlarımız dünyadaki nima deyishni xalaysınız?
Ya hazır oralarda gül dünya hazır itiraf qılatıdı. Amerika, Kanada itiraf qıldı, genotsid qılatıdı da. Biroq Müslüman davlatlar sukutda yatıdı. U dünya baganda Allah'ın aldığında qandaq cevap verimiz. Qarindoshlar aşaqda qırvatıdı, öldürüvatıdı, tajavuz qılatıdı deb anlap turup yana sukutda yetivatıdı. Bilmedim onunla qandaq yana dash kerak. Qurbanlık qildim. Men ölümde qo'rqmayman. Hamma bir ko'ldiq adammiz. Allah'ın aldığında men bular demay ketsam qanday bo'ladi? Bu butkul dunyoga yetib nima uchun? Kimdan qo'rqadi? Pulga setilib ketgan, pulga Xitoyning pullariga setilib ketgan. Ularga adam keragi yo'q. Şu butkul dünyadaki Müslümanlara deymenki destursun orundan aşağıdaki bir günah yatkan qeyrindaşlarımga sahip çıksın. Qandaq destur boldu bilmedim. Hammani ko'rib
Yo'q, shu so'zlab beramiz. Gulbahardan bir tarjima qilib berayim shu gaplarni. I forgot to say one thing while she was talking about her words, her message for Uyghur brothers and sisters, and she calls Uyghur brothers and sisters pray also at the same time by doing those efforts. Of course, pray to Allah and ask Allah to help us, of course. And of course, she is sending a message right now. To the world, to our Muslim brothers and sisters who share the same Islamic belief. She said that while I am telling all these my experiences here, Islam, the countries like um, how can I say Muslim countries are staying silent, even though I am and other camp survivors are giving so much message to the world. They are staying silent, and she hopes that they broke their silence and break their silence and break their ties and stand with Uyghurs and help Uyghurs. And she said that I'm not in fear of death at all. Just Allah gives everyone one-time death. That's why I'm speaking out fearlessly here to answer Allah when I meet with Allah. So she said, if those countries don't stand with Uyghurs during this period of genocide, how can they answer to Allah in the Akhirah? Yeah, this is what she says.
Subhanallah. Jazakallah khair for your strength, for your courage, and for surviving and bringing this message out here. Allah was with you then. His angels brought you out, and subhanallah, I hope we can do our part of the amana in getting your message out to the rest of the world.
Sister Hena dedi Gulbaharda, endi bizga omonat bo'ldi. Sizningki shu degan gap so'zlaringizni endi tashqi dunyodagi hammalarga jakalash endi bizning majburiyatimiz bo'ldi. Chunki bugun sizning oldingiz dedi. Sizga yaxshi tilaklarni bildirdi Hena. Allah sizga shu ashadan bir sog' salomat qutulib chiqqaningizga Allah'ın yardımı bilen. Annen çıkıp şu sözlerini şuna dünyaya aşkarlap aşağı kögen bilgilerimizden hemmini de Xitay hükümetinin ki kılmış etmişlerini işte iç taşlığalıkımızda hemmisiyle rahmet dedi, hem minnettarlıkını bildirdi.
Subhanallah. It's to all of you who are watching, the least you can do is share her message. That's the least you can do. Make dua. Those of you who are of people of other faith, pray for Uyghur people. Pray for their release from these atrocious atrocities. When we get together and speak against atrocities, people combining together, a wave can spread through the world, and we cannot think that we are alone and that we are. I sometimes I was speaking to young Uyghur people last night, and I felt in their heart, a lot of sorrow and anguish that at the sort of people who are not supporting them, the people who claim to stand up for human rights, claim to stand up for women's rights, claim to really, really be those paragons of virtue or popularity, and they're silent. Their silence, your silence is so deafening, and it's crushing the hearts of the people who are being affected. And you will be held accountable. Any one of us who is a believer has to believe that we will be held accountable on the day of judgment for not doing our part in stopping this crisis now, in speaking up for the Uyghur people, and not just performative actions, not just putting up a flag on your Twitter handle or your Instagram handle or sharing, but really, really making a commitment. Spend 10 minutes a day, calling up your elected officials, talking to leadership in your own circle of influence, even if it's your neighbors, it's your college roommates, it is your auntie who lives in Tunisia or Morocco or Egypt. Talk to them. Talk to them about what is happening. This is, Gulbahar was given an amana. An amana means a trust. The young women who she left behind in the camps, they gave her trust. She has, held up to her trust. She has given her amana and she has spread the message to the world. Now it is our amana. Today, myself and Sister Serwi, we have completed our amana by spreading this message to you. My brothers, our producers, my intern, Sister Maryam, Brother Abdul Wahid, Brother Wahid Mir, we have given our amana in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in front of God, that we are spreading the words of these sisters inside the camps. Now it is on to you. This is your amana now. What will you do with this amana? Join us tomorrow as we talk to another Uyghur camp survivor. Assalamu alaikum.